Tomorrow I go home from my trip. My trip lasted maybe 6 days, 5 days. I saw 3 blood relatives. Actually, that's not quite accurate. It was 4 blood relatives. My sister Lizzie doesn't like being in my movies, but I saw her. And Lizzie hasn't wanted to be in my movies for the past couple decades. Never could figure out why. Lizzie, now how's your job going?
It's going very well. Keeping me very busy.
Do you work a little too hard?
Not when you're in a union, you don't work too hard.
Oh, you're in a union.
You have people looking out for you.
Really? Like when boss man comes, you pretend to work, and when boss man ain't around? When boss man ain't around, you do jack shit.
It's not like that.
I learned that too. I learned that when I had my job. Okay, I better.
Why don't you sign off here?
Isn't Lizzie cute? Lizzie, you are just curves and curls and everything that a man could want in a woman.
John, turn it off.
What was the meaning of my trip? Well, I got 2 t-shirts. But sometimes I've found that if you come up with theories as to what things mean, it's not exactly right.
Jackson! We have Hot Pockets.
So, probably the best thing is to just show you the trip, starting with these t-shirts. I got this one from my sister-in-law who hated it. Somehow she got it and she didn't want to wear it. Very good. Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
In 25 words or less, what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. Good. Wow. To learn to love God and to love other people.
The other one I just slept in and jogged in. It stinks, but it's a pretty good one. My name is John Thornton, and I was to the manor born, along with my identical twin brother Jim and our sister Lizzie. We grew up in the wealthy Pittsburgh suburb of Sewickley, Pennsylvania, but times have changed and we have fallen.
I would like to come back here.
Here's the country club we were members of in our youth. My twin brother has 2 sons, Ben and Jack, and Jack's debut as a rock star is the precipitating reason I took my trip. He was going to perform at the Historic Synagogue at 6th and I in Washington, D.C. So I loaded up my Prius and drove south from Ocean City, New Jersey. We had the whole afternoon to kill before Jack's show.
We're here in Washington to see young Jackson Scott, here at the $6 a meal Chinese restaurant. And decided to get a
$6
glass of
drink.
Canadian Club on the rocks. Nothing to do is nothing.
Tags. Is that glass? I hope not.
Yes.
Is it? They should have made that through plastic.
Please, Jay. Well,
How else is he going to learn unless he lands on his head?
Well, please.
You want to go get... Oops.
It's all right.
I'm a concerned uncle. I'm going to check my wristwatch. It's 2 o'clock, man, in the afternoon.
And you're not the one drinking.
Restaurant. I stopped drinking Canadian Club after getting very drunk in the Boundary Waters canoe area, getting up in the middle of the night to take a leak, tripping in the tent, landing on my rib on a root, And so for the rest of the trip, I could only paddle on one side. You're supposed to three here, and then they'll go yell hut, and you switch. But I could only go like, oh. But this was.
And I think our viewers are interested in how a young man becomes a rock star. And now we're seeing that the father
Had something to do.
dunked your egg roll in the Canadian Club.
Try it. You're scared.
I feel like I'll hate it.
It's pretty.
That beautiful blonde we were hanging with in the Chinese restaurant was the daughter of one of my brother's master swimming friends. And we got a place to stay that night with her.
Oh, that's good.
An extremely odd thing has occurred. I opened my fortune cookie. Discontent is the first step in the progress of a man or a nation.
And then I opened mine up.
It's a spooky.
I've been taking that first step for my entire life.
The four of us spilled out of that Chinese restaurant onto the streets of Washington, D.C. And it was beautiful out there.
Only mammals. So if you are a mammal, you're invited to Morgie's incredible family reunion. Let's go, Harry. It's a loud, raucous celebration of life.
Life can unfortunately be disappointing at times. One of my brother's most cherished memories was of the great blue whale at the Museum of Natural History in Washington. He was eager to share it with his young friend, Allie. This young lady has never seen the blue whale in the Museum of Natural History.
It's not that big.
It turns out that Jim's beloved blue whale, largest mammal in the history of the world, rotted away over a decade ago and has been replaced with a much smaller baleen whale.
Tomorrow's gonna go away, I know.
The doors to Jack's show wouldn't open till 7:30, so we continued our wanderings in the world's most powerful city. The Boston Marathon bombings had occurred just 1 week before, and we saw Washingtonians acting in a spirit of great generosity. What's happening?
It's a group run, and then it's a fundraiser for the One Boston Fund afterwards at the bar.
Very nice.
So we're going to give a few more minutes to try to get them here.
So what are you doing? What is this?
It's a memorial run for Boston Marathon. The victims of the Boston
How far?
Marathon.
It's 4.09. It's the time that the clock got stopped after the bomb went off.
2 minutes, 2-minute warning. Get set, go!
These women worked for the PBS NewsHour. Jim tried to tell them what a gifted filmmaker I was, but they had places to go and people to see.
We're going to play the piano.
Okay. How about a little Georgia Brown there now?
Where does musical talent like Jack's come from? His grandfather could play the piano by ear.
The reservations are at 7:30.
His father has what some have described as a tenor voice. And I too have had some training in the piano.
You studied under Mrs. Mellon?
Mrs. Mellon was my piano teacher. She was from Austria. My parents imported her especially for me for music lessons. Mrs. Mellon had a technique. The whole hand had to be like this. Put out your hand. She would do this to your hand. She would stroke it like that. I don't know what that meant, but that was to make you loose or something. So I'll try to remember Chimes in the Mist. The key to Chimes in the Mist is the right pedal, which makes everything
Kind of misty.
Imagine you're playing with a pair of work gloves.
We have to go, boys.
And you have to like... I freely admit that I was never much of a performer in the musical realm. But as far as a composer, I think there's something about my avant-garde approach with GarageBand that may speak to a more intellectual audience. Please listen along with me to some of my more successful etudes. But wherever Jack's musical talent came from, my piano-playing wife, Nancy, saw it very early on.
I remember visiting Jim and Debbie when Jack was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years old. He was sitting there at the piano just, picking out little tunes or just playing. After I listened to him for a while, I thought to myself, he sounded really like he had some sort of ability in music. So I mentioned this to Debbie and recommended that she might get him some music lessons at some point.
Well, if Jack got his musical talent from anyone in the family, it was our father.
Play, big man.
Because Jim and I sure as hell don't have any.
Is anybody here? Seen bells all around chatter. On you, tell me where he's gone.
When Jack matriculated at the University of North Carolina in Asheville, he told his parents that he was going to try to start a band, which he did, a group called Sin Kitty. The band consisted of Jack, Annie Elizabeth Iodici, Chase Gorder, Aaron Costel, and Dylan Kelly. Jack told me he took piano lessons for 5 years, but that his real training was getting a set of Beatles charts. Studying them taught him how to control emotional response through chord changes. At some point, Jack got access to an old school Tascam 4-track cassette recorder and decided to make his own independent album. He played everything himself, wrote, sang, and recorded all the songs. Pitchfork.com made one of his tracks, That Awful Sound, its best track, and then all sorts of things started happening. Jack was flown to New York, got a manager and a label, Fat Possum Records, a good advance for 2 albums. Plus, he was asked to open for Deerhunter, which is what brought us to 6th and I in DC.
This is kind of why Jack doesn't want us in the front row. Allie's going to be starring in my Diagra commercial, but she also does public service commercials about the importance of earplugs at rock concerts.
Deerhunter is a very well-known band, and for an obscure 20-year-old musician to be asked to open for them was pretty amazing. The synagogue at 6th and I holds a number of shows, but I have to warn you, the acoustics are not great. Very loud and echoey. The lead singer from Deerhunter even complained that he couldn't hear himself.
Is that the mirrors? 80. Check, 80. Cool.
sucks.
We spent that night at Leslie's house in Vienna, Virginia. My brother Jim's feeling for all his fellow creatures in this world is very deep, even for those he's allergic to.
Get her expression. It is really cute.
I love my brother Jim so much, and when he is buffeted by the vicissitudes of life, I think about the Roman Stoics. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and a violent stream. For as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place, and this will be carried away too." Epictetus, in his Enchiridion, says, "There are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power. Within our power are opinion, aim, desire, aversion, and in one word, whatever affairs are our own. Beyond our power are body, property, reputation, office, and in one word, whatever are not properly our own affairs." He counsels us that attempting to control things that are outside of our power leads to misery. Accepting this truth is the only path to happiness. The next day, we met up with Ben and Jack and Jack's bandmates. They got a $200 parking ticket, which pretty much wiped out most of their gig money. Ticket?
Life on the road.
Ticket?
200 bones.
$200?
That's the problem.
After a nice breakfast, Jack and the band lit out for a 7-day, 7-city tour with Deerhunter. And for Jim, Ben, and me, it was back to the Rust Belt of Western Pennsylvania. Well, there's no need to get weepy about Ben's fate. He didn't actually sustain any serious head injuries as a kid, and he has turned into a very cool guy. He wasn't trapped in the Rust Belt like his parents. and after working on a horror film for a while in Baton Rouge, he went to New Orleans and made some friends. His easygoing charm is very attractive to all sorts of people. At least Parisian porn expert Lucille thinks so, as she and Ben met at a hostel and shared some beautiful days together in the Big Easy. Not the kind of thing that ever happened to me when I was his age. After Jack's show, we did go back to Ambridge, Pennsylvania. My brother and his wife have bought a lot of dilapidated properties in a section of the town known as Old Economy. Debbie fixes them up in an historically accurate manner. Their Old Economy Inn, a bed and breakfast, has been quite a success, but unfortunately, that is not the case with all the properties that they have acquired.
I'm going to take you on a tour of our contiguous properties, the Hotel of the Unfortunates and the store. This is the back of the Hotel of the Unfortunates. Follow me where the ghosts are supposedly living. This building was where visitors to the Old Economy settlement who were down on their luck and didn't have money to pay for a nice hotel, they would let them stay for free here. And hence the name, the Hotel of the Unfortunates. And as I told Debbie when we bought it, we are slowly but surely and inexorably being sucked into the Hotel of the Unfortunates ourselves. We put a roof on to stop the damage by the elements and squirrels, and we got the lead paint and asbestos out, which I don't know if they really did, but they charged a fortune. That was a mistake. Hopefully have stopped the termite damage, but otherwise we've run out of money for this particular property for now. But we are grossing $50 a month to a carpenter who stores some of his tools here. Follow me, Johnny.
And how much did this Hotel for the Unfortunates cost you?
I think it was $28,000 or $24,000, something like that.
Plus, didn't you have to put some money into it?
Yeah, well, the roof and stuff. Yeah,
all right, hold on. I have alluded obliquely to my twins' financial problems, and perhaps now is the time to give you my take on it. My brother's wife, Debbie, is very interested in rehabbing old houses and good at it. But the question becomes, is that a viable enterprise in a place like Ambridge? Buying properties there is dirt cheap. But the cost of fixing them up? There's the rub.
The old bathroom. Then there's just all kinds of rooms that Debbie has never found an item that she doesn't want to keep forever. But that's been one of the benefits of this place, is it's a magnificent repository of historical junk. It's got all kinds of termite-rotted historical wood. One thing about Ambridge that's kind of interesting is people throw away some pretty good stuff. Like these chairs, look at this. But that is a nice chair. We got a set of these. They just threw them on the curb. Sit on this, it's pretty comfortable. Dusty. How's that feel on your buttock?
Very comfortable.
Yesterday, these people threw out all these historic books, and included in one of these books was a little piggy bank. Debbie opened up the piggy bank, and there was probably 300 or 400 wheat pennies in there. Some with our birthdays. Okay.
And a wheat penny's worth like 2 cents a piece?
At least. Anyhow, so right now this is just like a repository for storage stuff, but this is the guy who's renting. I mean, like, you think we're pack rats. Mark's even more pack ratty than us. This building was the store back in the day. We'll probably leave the siding on until we're out of bankruptcy. This is the upstairs, and we're going to move my office up here and rent it out to a friend who's a teacher. These floors had weird linoleum on it, and Debbie's trying to get all the gunk off of it. And then we're going to just rent a floor sander. And it looks kind of grungy now, but all the buildings we've got have looked at least this bad. And Debbie's just, it's amazing what she does. It's going to be wired for all the, upgraded electricity, but also like cable, Cat 5 and all that stuff. I think a lot of these radiators are cracked, which is too bad because that's a pretty good way of heating stuff. We're going to save as much of the bathroom as possible, which basically means the tub. These two rooms are where I'm going to probably have my office, which gives me a ton of space and kind of a nice view. Okay, and then you can see the old Economist church out the window, and those buildings across the street were all Economist houses. You have to like old houses, frankly, but I do. Debbie's gotten me to really like these things. I mean, just look at these little details. This wood is the floors, everything is just so nicely solid, and it looks decrepit, but it won't for long.
Ambridge, Pennsylvania is not beyond redemption, but it has seen better days. It once was a thriving industrial center, home of the American Bridge Company, but those days are long gone. But way before that, in 1824, the followers of George Rapp moved here from Germany and founded Old Economy Village.
This is sort of the main settlement stuff inside the white fence. But then there's all these buildings throughout Ambridge where the members actually lived. But I just think it's beautiful. Those flowering trees, and see the trellises on the side of the buildings? Those are grape vines. And they made their own wine. And then here's the church where they worshipped. They had a very plain kind of architectural style, not a whole lot of decoration.
The Harmony Society was a religious group which, like the Shakers, adopted celibacy. Members donated everything to the society, and they were self-sufficient in every way, except, of course, for the production of new members. By the end of the 19th century, most had died off, and the lands were sold to the American Bridge Company.
When I said that they were kind of plain and didn't like decorations and adornment, that went with as far as gravestones as well. They didn't believe in having gravestones.
Well, how do they even know where each person is?
They don't. They know they're all in there someplace.
In 1916, 6 acres of the grounds of Old Economy Village and 17 buildings were acquired by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and this is now a National Historic Landmark site. I have been to places like Mount Vernon, and for sheer charm, Old Economy seems just as good. So perhaps Debbie and Jim's real estate investments might pay off someday, but will they be totally indigent before that happy day arrives?
When Debbie got this, there were false ceilings everywhere and a bunch of, this was all walled off, so it was just this weird, strange little, completely dark room. This was all walled off. She was so excited when they got rid of this and found these casement windows here. And then look at the tin ceilings. That's really pretty. I think it's beautiful. One of my ideas for this is to have an indoor miniature golf range, which I think could be, if we charge local kids $1 a round, you know. We could probably make $12, $13, maybe even $15 a year.
Behind the old economy village is a brown field where Jim likes to walk his pugs. He explained to me that within this rubble are a number of killdeer, plover-like birds that you wouldn't expect in a place like this. The mother killdeer have this trick where they lead predators away from their nests, feigning a broken wing. There was this rich Australian guy who had big plans for this brown field, but nothing happened. Maybe something will happen someday. At least maybe it will get some nice green weeds. But for now, pugs and killdeer are the big players. I used to work in McKees Rocks, and that's where I learned the value of $1 and how $1 not spent is $1 earned. I failed to learn that then, and now that I'm 60, I've learned that $1 spent is misery incurred. I've been a little bit more fortunate so far in money usage than Jim, in that I've used less and have more. Okay, look.
The evidence, the optimists who have been wrong in the past. To suggest we are on the edge of defeat is to yield to unreasonable pessimism. To say that we are mired in stalemate seems the only realistic, if unsatisfactory, conclusion.
Jim and Debbie lived in Minnesota for 12 years before they came back to Western Pennsylvania. One of their close friends works for the Minnesota Historical Society. His name is Brian Horrigan, and he curated a show going across the country now about a pivotal year in American history, 1968. We drove in to see this show at the Heinz History Center in Pittsburgh. Some of Jim and Debbie's financial problems are indeed self-inflicted. Debbie has always been a stay-at-home mom, so they are dependent upon Jim as the sole breadwinner. They have simply spent too much money on real estate. But another huge problem is that as a self-employed magazine writer, Jim has to pay close to $30,000 a year for their health insurance. That's over half his income, and for me, that is an unconscionable fact of our American society. We are desperately hoping that President Obama's Affordable Care Act will be implemented for people like Jim this January. As we looked at the show about 1968 and remembered our youth, it was hard not to compare then and now. It was a horrible year in many respects. There was the horror of the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy, and the awfulness of the Vietnam War. I remember the day I heard about Bobby Kennedy's killing. I was 15 and old enough to understand it more than when his brother was killed in 1963. Now that I am 60, I think how different we might be now as a society if only Bobby hadn't encountered Sirhan Sirhan in that hotel that night. In 1968, there was not yet a Rust Belt, and the culture was vibrant, to say the least. Our society then was more communitarian, not so dog-eat-dog as the place that it has become nowadays. Each city this exhibition goes, visitors are asked to vote for a fantasy president. In Pittsburgh, I was horrified to see that Ronald Reagan was in the top spot, ahead of Bobby Kennedy. I am happy to report that once it came to Philadelphia several months later, Bobby took the lead. I think these two men do represent strains of American thought that for better or worse define us as a people. The conservatism that metastasized out of years of Reagan fetishizing has led to our winner-take-all society and vast economic and social inequality, worse even than many South American banana republics. Conservatives believe you get what you deserve. The rich deserve what they have, and so do the poor. Corporations are people, my friends, and we will never win over the takers. We who have built the shining city on a dunghill. Bobby would never have gone for that. He would have tried to have a more equal society. One day, Jim and I drove around our old rich town of Sewickley and ogled and filmed some of the mansions. As of now, it looks like Jesus was wrong. It's the rich who are inheriting the earth. I have an extraordinary life. I'm financially secure. I get to do what I want to, and I just am blessed beyond measure. My trip has been over for a couple months. It's late July. My nephew Jack is releasing his album today, July 23rd. It's called Melbourne, and you can find it on the Fat Possum Records website. One thing I have taken away from my trip, though, is how broken our society's becoming. This winner-take-all thing has got to end. Ben is staying with Nancy and me in Ocean City now and has a job at a local seafood restaurant. Jackson, Hot Pockets. What was that about?
No idea.
Jack may or may not have a successful career in music, but if somehow, miraculously, he does make it really big, I want to live in a society where both of my nephews can have good and secure lives, not just the one who's become a rich rock star. When I was a kid and we drove into Pittsburgh, the Western State Penitentiary always scared the hell out of me. I worried maybe I'd end up there someday. So far, I've lucked out, but we Americans lead the world in number of citizens incarcerated. Are we headed towards an America where there are a very few extremely rich people, and if you're not a servant for the rich, then you're a prison guard or locked up? My trip has made me reflect on things like this. We can do so much better. I've been critical about Debbie and Jim and their dreams for old economy because of the financial strain it's put them under. But I do believe there's a nobility in what they're trying to do, because they're trying to preserve the legacy of a generous and selfless people who shared what they had with those less fortunate and always thought of the greater good.